What's up, guys? It's Rain here, and I'm going to be doing something different for War of the Spark. I've been working on the doc, and I realized I'm probably going to finish at some point, but I wanted to break down a lot of what I say in the document into smaller video sections. That way it can feel more like a conversation, less like me writing a bunch of words and you guys just reading them. I think I'm going to give this a shot. If you guys like it, let me know. If not, don't let me know that it's not working, and we'll go from there. So if you check out the title of the video, this is going to be my pick for the top 10 commons of War of the Spark. Now, War of the Spark has a lot of really pretty, good commons. I'm just going to say that right now. Once we get to the bottom of this list, it becomes a little more clear that some of the cards are better than others, but a lot of the commons are really, really powerful. And let's just get started and you'll see. First off, I'm putting Bloomhulk at number 1, and I know this might be a controversial spot on the list. Bloomhulk just reminds me a lot of Ondu Giant from Rise of the Eldrazi, a card I really, really loved playing. It's like this spot at the curve that's really nice to have, like this synergistic yet relevant body. The proliferate, okay, so 4 mana 4/4 is obviously above the curve by 1 toughness, and having the proliferate mechanic on top of it means that this could very easily be something like 4 mana 4/4 that puts 1 or 2 +1/+1 counters on something, which is like an extra 1 or 2 mana worth of card. Like, quite frankly, this is just ridiculously efficient for the mana cost and really, really, really powerful. I do tend to overrate green cards, so please take this with a grain of salt. This Bloomhulk could not be the best common in the format, but it's definitely my pick for best common in the format. I think just the overall package here is absolutely fucking ridiculous, especially for a common. I could have very easily seen this as an uncommon, and that's a good sign for a card like this. Number 2 is Ob Nixilis' Cruelty. Now, Ob Nixilis' Cruelty is a insanely efficient removal spell, and Flatten, if you remember Dragons of Tarkir, was 4 mana, did -4/-4, and that was it, and it was considered, I think, flat out to be the best common in the format. We've also seen other variations of this throughout the years, most of them, in fact all of them, being worse than Ob Nixilis' Cruelty. And add in that Ob Nixilis Cruelty costs 1 less than Flatten, gives an extra -1/-1 compared to Flatten, and exiles on top of all that. And still instant speed, which is ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. This would be so good. Again, this is another card I could see as uncommon. The only reason Bloom Titan got ahead of Ob Nixilis' Cruelty is I think that people in general, and myself included, tend to underrate proactive cards, and Bloom Titan is a really powerful proactive tool. Ob Nixilis' Cruelty is probably a more powerful than Bloom Titan's reactive tool, but that makes it a little bit worse, in my opinion, than Bloom Titan, and that's nothing to discredit Ob Nixilis' Cruelty. This card is definitely a pick over a lot of the Planeswalkers in the draft, including, well, Bloom Titan is as well, and we'll talk about that a little more later, but this is just a really, really powerful removal spell. I mean, I'd be fine splashing this. I don't really give a shit. Like, this is always going to be really, really good. Number 3, we have Trusted Pegasus, another proactive card, and one I think is going to be the key to playing aggressive decks in the format. I love Trusted Pegasus here. So, flyers in this format has some added utility because there's going to be +1/+1 counters going on creatures, and putting a +1/+1 counter on a flyer is way more efficient than putting a +1/+1 counter on a normal creature. In fact, if I had to choose a single keyword, there's like 2 real choices in terms of keywords that I like to put +1/+1 counters on that would be the most valuable. Ignoring stuff like Double Strike, which I don't consider a keyword necessarily. Flying and Hexproof. Double Strike is a rare keyword, like in Indestructible. But Flying and Hexproof are kind of the more common ones that really do well once the creatures start getting bigger with +1/+1 counters. And On top of that, you have this ability. So we're looking at Pegasus Courser with a better body than Pegasus Courser, quite frankly. I'd much rather have a 2-2 flyer than a 1-3 flyer. So already an upgrade there, and add in this counter synergy, and you're just looking at a really, really powerful common. Um, very, very good. Next up, we have Jaya's Greeting, a card I like quite a bit. Lightning Strike tended to go towards creatures. We'll say, I think reasonably 90% of the time. Probably more than that, quite frankly. So the question is Scry 1 better or worse efficiency than the ability to go face? And that's actually a bit more complicated than it may seem at first, because even though Lightning Strike usually went towards creatures, you often factored in the fact that it could go towards players as decisions in your plays. However, generally I think that the removal part of the package is just way more important. So I think this is a slight downgrade on Lightning Strike, to be frank. I think Scry 1 is really nice, but I think that I still prefer the flexibility of hitting players. But this enforces the idea that, I mean, this slows the format down, right? Lightning Strike doesn't slow the format down necessarily. It generally kind of does. But the fact that it could go face means that you could play aggressive decks and just strike their face. This can't strike face, which just means that it only kills shit really efficiently with extra value. I mean, like, this is just a really good package. Like, we're trying to compare it to Lightning Strike here. I mean, Lightning Strike is ridiculous, and obviously when you play it on a creature, it's better than Lightning Strike. So, yeah, Jaya's Greeting is insane. Really, really powerful. Now we start getting to the good but not incredible commons. I think Jaya's Greeting is kind of like the barrier line before we get to the still top 10, but kind of less powerful top 10. And now we have Wanderer's Strike, which is, for all intents and purposes, a reprint of Spread the Sickness. And Spread the Sickness was really good in its own format, where it had Infect and there was some +1/+1 counters. I expect Wanderer's Strike to do much the same. Very easy to splash this sort of card, and even though it costs 5 mana, you're getting a whole lot for it. You're getting this Proliferate on top of the hard removal. It's just a really good package. Next up, we have Even Eternal, and I kind of struggled when I got to this point on the list. I knew Wanderer Strike was like just below the cusp of like outstanding comments, and definitely had to be where it was. And for the rest of these, they're pretty. It was difficult. I arranged this order in a specific way for a reason, but it was close on a lot of the cards. Even Eternal, I gave it the edge over a lot of these other cards. Well, I thought about the value of a 1/1 in this format, and more importantly, a 0/0 that has a +1/+1 counter in this format. So even Eternal, you're getting a Windrake body already, which is nice. Never going to turn that down. Again, we talked about the extra synergy with flyers and +1/+1 counters. On top of that, you get this Amass 1. So on its own, assuming you have no other Amass going on, you get this +1/+1 counter body going already. So now all your proliferate effects already have something that works on them. The 1/1 body, even though it's not relevant to the board state, it is a little more relevant than it is in most formats, just because it can chump block for your planeswalkers. I'm not going to use that as an argument for other 1/1s in this format. But keep in mind that we're talking about an upside attached to a Windrake, so that's a little bit different than just talking about a 1/1 body on its own. So it turns on your Proliferate, as well as splitting your threats, giving you a little bit of a chump block value if you want to defend your walkers, and getting an evasive threat. I think that all together makes a really solid package. I don't think it's an insane package. Not going to bend over for it the way I might for like a card like Omnic Solstice Cruelty, but pardon the metaphor, I guess. Nah, whatever. But Even Eternal is certainly quite good. Next up, we have Band Together, and there's just a lot of really powerful common removal in this set, and Band Together, frankly, is a piece of it. I mean, this is combo attack, I want to say. It was out of Battle Bond. I mean, obviously it's easier for 2 players to have 2 creatures to fight with. However, it's not a big ask to just have this. Even without, like, say you have 1 creature, then this is, was it Tail Slash? from one of the Tarkir formats, whereas the Fall of the Hammer for 3 mana. But with 2 creatures out, you're overkilling something, and even if they respond to your band together by removing a creature, since it says up to 2 target creatures, you're still going to resolve it. It's instant speed too, which means you could do a response to removal. It's one-sided, which is ridiculous. Like, this is just a really, really great package. And for green, this is as close to hard removal as green is going to get at common in a draft format, I think. Yeah, really quite a good card. Obviously, it has some flaws in the fact that you can be responded to with removal, and it's not a lot of downsides. In fact, like, it's kind of an awkward consideration. I've normally overrated fight cards, and that's why I'm kind of putting it here. But part of me wants to put it higher than this. It's just really, really good. Not too much more to say. Let's move on. Now we kind of get to like the bottom of the best ones. I think Aven Eternal, the fight card, and the Spread the Sickness were kind of in a league there. Turret Ogre is a nice card. It's a Summit Prowler with Reach that has upside on top of that. That's just a lot of good stuff. Like, you can't really go wrong with Turret Ogre. And if you think you could go wrong with Turret Ogre, you're probably just wrong. Like, there's some awkward things about it. 3 toughness. I'd rather have 3/4s than 4/3s by a little bit, but not by too much. I prefer 4/3 bodies in general. But 3 toughness obviously hits by Jaya's Greeting, and there are some 3/2s in the format that are just good value that will trade up into us. However, I mean, like, look at all these fucking lines of text. Red doesn't have great ways to deal with flyers, and well, suddenly no problem at all. And asking this is like, this is just a nice little thing to tack on. I mean, the whole package is just a lot of really good shit. It reminds me a lot of, like, when you're playing a video game and your character gets a minor buff, and then it gets another minor buff, and then it gets another minor buff, then suddenly they just, like, are really good. And it's not a culmination of, like, anything other than the fact that they've got a few buffs over time, and Turret Ogre just has a lot of minor shit attached to it that made it good. Next up, we have Pollen Bright Druid, a card I like quite a bit, but one I think that we have to be a little bit careful before we overrate it. It is a good card. Right off the bat, you're looking at 2 mana 2/2 that turns on your Proliferate because it puts 1/1 counter on itself. Add to it the flexibility that you can put the 1/1 counter on a flyer or some other creature that has synergy with 1/1 counters, which means that it's not just a 2 mana 2/2, it's a 2 mana 2/2 with flexibility with just this first ability, which is a card I think I would play in this format. I like Teo's Light Shield or something like that, the 3 mana 0/3 that puts a +1/+1 counter on a creature. I like that card. I think Pollen Bright Druid is a better version of that card, which is really, really nice. The other option is Wonderful, Proliferate. It's like, okay, if a 1/1 counter isn't as good as Proliferating, then this card is ridiculously efficient. Like, this could end up being, like, the Proliferate ability on certain boards can be worth 2 mana on its own, on top of, like, you know, getting this little 1/1, which doesn't really matter, but, like, Proliferate is very variable in terms of how much mana it's worth, and the fact that you have this option is just really huge at making this just consistently very good. It's a 2-drop that's good on turn 2, it's good in the mid game, and it's good in the late game. I mean, it's just, I like 2-drops that are good at all stages, and frankly, Pollen Bright Druid is just that. Spark Harvest makes it in last place for me. And don't get me wrong, I love Spark Harvest, and there's a good chance I'm underrating it. This Ore Planeswalker line is kind of relevant. But at the same time, I generally consider this to be 5 mana. I've taken a look at, like, the sacrifice synergies and shit going down in this format. It's not great, I'm going to be honest. Like, Bone Splinters has its time and its place. And even, like, red-black, I'm not excited about sacrificing shit to this. Although, the fact that you can do it in a pinch is certainly upside, and quite relevant. But 5 mana for removal for creature or planeswalker is good. I mean, perhaps this and Polymer by Druid could deserve a spot kind of near Spread the Sickness, Wander Strike, whatever. And frankly, like I could see myself being wrong on Pollen Bright and Spark Harvest. But my thing with Spark Harvest is it's a bit slow. I mean, I'm not going to say it's bad. It's on the top 10 list for a reason. I just think that it's a bit slow. Yeah, that's literally it. Like, all the other commons on this list are really, really good as well, so let's not discount that. Like, I know I was kind of dividing lines and shit, but the Ogre, that card is like just, I think, quite good. Like, I might have been downplaying a little bit on how good I think some of these cards are. But I think Spark Harvest is good, not great, and Spark Harvest deserves a good, not great spot on my list. Alright, that's the top 10 comments for me. Let me know if you disagree. Put down in the description what you think your top 10 list is. Put down what you agree with, what you disagree with, comments, suggestions. If you guys enjoyed the video, let me know. I'm going to take a look. And thank you for watching. Have a nice day. I'll be back for some more.